traded 2 second-round picks and an additional day 3 pick this year to Texans for their number 23 overall pick in the first round. So they still have number 11, but now they also have number 23.
A few weeks ago, I made a video stating that a huge Minnesota Vikings trade is coming. In that video, I highlighted 2 possible scenarios. One being that the Minnesota Vikings have to move on from Justin Jefferson. We all know that's not going to happen. The other being the Minnesota Vikings moving on from Kirk Cousins. As free agency went down, we found out what their decision was. But the thing that was really interesting about the Vikings situation is, what do they do at quarterback now? I know you might think that there's an answer there already, but that's clearly not what they're going for. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! This is easily my favorite promotion. All Caitlin Clark needs is a single point for her square to convert, which means we only need to make one more pick on Prize Picks in order to 3x our money. You guys have been making a lot of money on Prize Picks, and if you guys need help making picks, I give away my picks for free on my Instagram story at @TheFlightMike. And if you haven't signed up for Prize Picks, right now when you use my promo code FlightMike, you get a deposit match up until $100. Make sure you check out my story right now to see if I entered my Caitlin Clark pick, and thank you Prize Picks for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? One of the biggest what ifs in the NFL is probably going to be what if Kirk Cousins didn't go down with a season-ending Achilles tear during this past season, because prior to that, Kirk Cousins was playing at an MVP level. Things were starting to turn around for the Minnesota Vikings in the 2023 season. I mean, they started out the season with a 1-4 record, with the last loss of Kirk Cousins' Minnesota Vikings career coming at the hands of a narrow defeat versus the Kansas City Chiefs, in which he performed pretty well in. Following that, they went on a 3-game winning streak before Kirk Cousins would inevitably tear his Achilles the week before he would face off against his new team, the Atlanta Falcons. And it was a shame, because if Kirk Cousins kept going, there's no question we could have been in for an MVP season from him, especially because he was playing this way even when Justin Jefferson was dealing with an injury. The question quickly turned to, what are the Minnesota Vikings going to do if Kirk Cousins decides to leave? What are they going to do about Justin Jefferson's impending contract negotiation? Because he is not giving the Minnesota Vikings a hometown discount. And eventually we found out what the plan was. The Minnesota Vikings just let Kirk Cousins walk. And to be honest, with the contract that he got from the Atlanta Falcons, one would wonder why they would let him walk to begin with. This year's NFL draft is known to have the most depth at the QB position since the 2021 NFL draft. You know, the draft that featured Trevor Lawrence, the greatest NFL prospect since Andrew Luck, and then Zach Wilson, the next coming of Patrick Mahomes, Trey Lance, the biggest project QB in the NFL draft, Justin Fields, the electric dual threat QB, and then Mac Jones, the safest player in the entire NFL draft. 3 of those 5 players are on different teams now, with Zach Wilson potentially being the next up. That's not stopping the Minnesota Vikings from purchasing a lottery ticket this year. You see, with Kirk Cousins leaving, the Minnesota Vikings have a huge question about what should they do at the QB position. They have all these weapons: TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, KJ Osborne recently left, but they needed to figure out the answer at the quarterback position. And if you take a look at all of their moves so far, everything is trending in one particular direction. The Minnesota Vikings signed a division rival halfback in Aaron Jones, who looks very excited to be a Viking, by the way.
This is Skull!
But in addition to that, they also brought along Josh McCown to be their quarterback coach, a man that I'm very high on. Now, one of my favorite eras of Josh McCown's career was towards the end when he was serving as a backup QB for the New York Jets, where he served mentor to a rookie QB that the New York Jets were trying to develop and would eventually ruin. That rookie was none other than Sam Darnold. So, with Josh McCown coming on to the Minnesota Vikings as a quarterbacks coach, the Vikings would bring on Sam Darnold on a 1-year, $10 million contract. Bear in mind, they prefer this over trading for Mac Jones or trading for Justin Fields, which, by the way, I don't think Justin Fields was on the table, considering that the Chicago Bears are a division rival of theirs, but Justin Jefferson wanted Justin Fields.
We have to build on, for after Kirk or whatever the case may be. But having Justin Fields brings a little bit more pressure to other teams by having, a dominant quarterback like he is.
So with all of that being said, Minnesota Vikings fans started to become confused. Are we really going to let this guy throw passes to Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and Jordan Addison next year? Are we going to trust him with the running game as well? Could he handle Kevin O'Connell's offense? Well, Kevin O'Connell certainly thinks so, but clearly this isn't the plan. Historically, if you look at successful quarterbacks in the NFL draft, the ones that do the best in the NFL are the individuals that sit back for a year after getting drafted, whether that's by accident in the form of Tom Brady or on purpose in the form of Patrick Mahomes and Carson Palmer. Sometimes it doesn't work out and fate just has a different plan for you, like what happened with the San Francisco 49ers and Trey Lance. But in the case of the Minnesota Vikings, it really seems clear what direction they're trying to go in here. And I highly doubt that that direction is trusting a quarterback that's completed 59.7% of his passes throughout his career to carry the load on offense and be QB1 moving forward. At least that's not their first plan. So about a week ago, the Minnesota Vikings made a huge trade, one that we didn't talk about because we were busy talking about the important stuff on this channel, like Le'Veon Bell having an OnlyFans account. And in this trade, we found out everything we needed to know about the Minnesota Vikings plans. It was a trade that was eerily reminiscent of how the Philadelphia Eagles finessed the New Orleans Saints 2 years ago, where they essentially traded their first round pick in a weaker draft and then got the New Orleans Saints 2023 first round pick, which they used to draft Jalen Carter. Howie Roseman's a wizard, bro. Oh my god. But in this case, the Minnesota Vikings didn't really need to give up as much. The Vikings acquired the 23rd overall pick in the first round and the number 232 selection in the 7th round. In return, the Texans got the 42nd overall pick in the 2nd round, a 2nd round pick in 2025, and a 6th round pick. There's a pretty nice chance that that Minnesota Vikings 2nd round pick in 2025 could be very valuable. But we don't know what the quarterback class in 2025 is going to look like. And the Minnesota Vikings need a quarterback now before they have to pay Justin Jefferson a huge sum of money. So now the Minnesota Vikings have number 11 and number 23. And I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with here. This year's NFL draft not only has a plethora of quarterback talent in the form of Caleb Williams, the next coming of Patrick Mahomes. No, seriously, we have a video called The Next Coming of Patrick Mahomes, if you want to figure out why he's the potential number 1 overall pick. But then you have the Washington Commanders at number 2, presumably taking Jaden Daniels or Drake May. Let us know if you want us to make a video on those two individuals. The New England Patriots traded Mac Jones, so it's clear that they're going to stand pat at the number 3 pick and select a quarterback. So I'm assuming either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, whoever falls to them. And then you have the number 4 pick in the NFL draft, the Arizona Cardinals, who really are in a great situation because they could use a wide receiver, but they don't necessarily need to take the best wide receiver available. If I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I'm trying to leverage this number 4 pick into getting as much talent and as many assets as humanly possible. And in this case, if I'm the Cardinals, I would much rather have the Vikings 11th overall pick and 23rd overall pick as opposed to the 4th overall pick. You fall back to the number 11 pick, maybe Malik Neighbors is there, maybe Rome Odunze's there, maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. falls a little bit, but I highly doubt that happens. So I'm targeting the number 4 pick if I'm the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm assuming that this is only going to go down if the quarterback that they want is on the board. The question is, who is that quarterback that they're targeting? A lot of people are speculating that it's going to be JJ McCarthy. And this trade is eerily reminiscent of the San Francisco 49ers draft day trade for Trey Lance. You know, the one where they gave up 2 first-round picks and swapped first-round picks with the Miami Dolphins, which essentially set up the Miami Dolphins to rebuild significantly quicker. And I guess you can make the argument that if they kept their assets and just kept Brock Purdy and didn't make this over-aggressive trade for a project QB that they just punted on almost immediately, the San Francisco 49ers may have been able to get additional pieces to win a Super Bowl. I'm just kidding, 49ers fans. I just wanted to trigger you a little bit. So my gut feeling is the Minnesota Vikings want Drake May, an individual that hasn't had as much hype recently. During the season, you would hear so much about Drake May, primarily because he had a really good year 2 years ago. This past season, however, he wasn't able to perform nearly as well. So as a result, you're seeing players like Jaden Daniels and JJ McCarthy get significantly more pre-draft hype than Drake May. The interesting part about this and the parallel I want to draw here for you is Drake May was coached in high school briefly by Josh McCown. How's that relationship? I'm not necessarily sure. But you have Josh McCown, an individual that there's familiarity with, and then you have Drake May, an individual that would thrive in Kevin O'Connell's offense. Then you have Sam Darnold, an individual that had a very rough few years in the NFL, primarily because of mismanagement of his talent and just playing for Adam Gase and Matt Rule regimes, and then goes to the San Francisco 49ers, who literally made it into the Super Bowl. So you have two great mentors there. You have an offense that's very friendly to accurate QBs. So at the end of the day, the Minnesota Vikings are about to make another huge trade. The individual that they're targeting is either Drake May or JJ McCarthy, in my opinion. And to be honest, at a specific point, when you're taking a quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft, it's a gigantic lottery and a gigantic crapshoot. But a lot of it has to do with what QBs are going to be placed in the best situations to succeed. And in my opinion, for the very first time in a long time, 3 of the 4 quarterback needy teams are in a remarkable situation for potential quarterbacks to take the reins. The Chicago Bears have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and just paid DeAndre Swift a ton of money. They have the number 1 overall pick and the number 9 overall pick. In terms of salary cap, they're doing astounding. Their defense is on the up and up, and they have a defensive-minded head coach, and their general manager is making very intelligent decisions, even the tough ones that piss off Chicago Bears fans.
I don't understand why the you cannot hold on to him until training camp, until something happens to somebody, and you're going to get better than a 6th-round pick. What are we doing here? This is, honestly, this is why I say it all the time. I am the only human being that is qualified to run this organization that is.
The Washington Commanders have been making sneaky additions like signing Austin Eckler, signing Tyler Biadasz, signing Dorrance Armstrong, really trying to install the Dan Quinn defense that he had in Dallas in Washington. So any quarterback that goes there is going to be in good shape, especially with Adam Peters as your general manager. The only situation I'd want to avoid if I am a quarterback is potentially the New England Patriots. There's virtually no weapons on that offense. And I don't mean this in an offensive way, but if you play for the Minnesota Vikings, you also have the opportunity to throw to TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and then you have Aaron Jones. They've made some moves to retool their defense as well. So while in 2021, I felt like quarterbacks were going to a lot of bad situations like the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer, or the New York Jets before they drafted Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, or the Chicago Bears who were depleted of assets back then. The San Francisco 49ers were a pretty sweet situation to go into, or the New England Patriots, which I thought was a good situation to go into to be coached by Bill Belichick. This year has a lot of great talent that could potentially be placed in great situations to succeed. At the end of the day, do I think that the quarterback for sure is going to be Drake May? I'm not necessarily sure, because the Washington Commanders also hired Cliff Kingsbury that has a relationship with Caleb Williams going back to his season at USC this past year, and at the same time Caleb Williams is from Washington, but it doesn't look like he's going to go to Washington. So let me know in the comment section down below, if you're a Vikings fan, which quarterback prospect do you think will thrive in your offense the most? Do you even think you guys are trading up for a quarterback? Maybe you stand pat at number 11 and take Michael Penix, or maybe JJ McCarthy falls to you. I like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.